Hello and welcome to another video to teach you about the wonderful world of Latin. Today's video will teach you about personal pronouns. You already know some of the 6 pronouns that Wheelock will introduce to you. You know the demonstrative adjectives and pronouns hic, haec, hoc, ille, illa, illud, and este, esta, estud, meaning this, that, and that of yours, or in the plural, these, those, and those of yours. This video will teach you another group of pronouns, the personal pronouns. In English, these mean I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, and they. So why are they called personal pronouns first? Well, they're called personal pronouns because they're the same types of pronouns we use when we translate verbs. First person verbs are I and we, or me and us in other cases. Second person are you and y'all. These are generally the same forms in other cases. And then third person pronouns are used for third person verbs like amot and amant. So he, she, it, and they. In other cases, him, her, it, and them. So these pronouns we're going to learn in other cases. Generally, we haven't used them before because we don't need a nominative pronoun. In fact, when there is a nominative pronoun in Latin, it's added for emphasis for the subject. So when we really want to say, I am doing this. Okay, so let's look at another way to understand these pronouns. So remember, it's also sort of like having a conversation, like shown in this ancient relief of a teacher talking with a student. The teacher talking is the first person because he thinks he's the most important person, so I. And he's talking to someone else, that student on the right, so in that conversation, they're the second most important person, you. And then the other people, the people not immediately in the conversation, are third person. They're not direct or not as important as I or you. So we use he, she, it, and they for them. Of course, each of these pronouns has a different form in Latin. So this video is going to teach you these pronouns in nominative as shown here and in the other cases. So let's start with first person pronouns for I and me in the singular and we and us in the plural. You already know the accusative and ablative singular form, may. There isn't a vocative form because with Latin we usually say that we are speaking with ourselves or thinking with ourselves. We don't use I or we to talk to ourselves. For the other cases, the nominative singular is ego, genitive mei, dative mihi, accusative ablative may. Nominative plural nos. Genitive plural has 2 possible forms, nostrum and nostri. The dative nobis, accusative nos, and ablative nobis. Once you've copied these down, you can move on to the next slide for second person. So the second person does have vocative. In fact, the vocative is used fairly often, and the vocative is the same as the nominative. Nominative singular is tu, genitive tui, dative tibi, accusative te, ablative te, vocative tu. In the plural, vos. Westrum or westri, again, we have 2 possible forms for genitive plural. Dative vobis, accusative vos, ablative vobis, and vocative plural is vos. Once you've copied these down, you can continue on to our next slide. Okay, so if you noticed, there's a lot of similarities between your first and second person pronouns. Ego, me, mihi, me is pretty similar to to tui, tibby, te, te, that mihi and tibby have the double I with the consonant in between, the long E in the accusative and ablative forms of me and te, the long I at the end of the genitive singular. So these nice patterns help you recognize the cases, and these two singular pronouns are actually pretty nice to chant. Ego, mei, mihi, me, and tu, tui, tibby, te, te. The plural forms can get a little bit confusing because they're so similar. For nos and wos and nobis and wobis, the only difference is the N and the V. For nostrum and nostri, westrum and westry, the N and O change to a V and an E. So the major challenge for the plural forms is just remembering the N is first person and we are us, and V is second person, you, or if you want, y'all or yous guys. So let's look at a few complications for the different uses of these particular pronouns. You already know some possessive adjectives, and you know possessive is one of the uses of the genitive case. So what do we use the genitive pronouns for? How is meus, mea, meum different from mei? Well, in Latin, we use these adjectives, meus, mea, meum, tuus, tua, tuum, noster, nostra, nostrum, wester, westra, westrum, to show possession. You don't use the genitive pronouns to show possession. You use those adjectives just like you've been doing already. For all the other uses of the genitive, like part of the whole or an objective genitive, and I'll give you an example of that in a second, you use the pronouns mei, tui, nostri, westri, nostrum, westrum. These other uses of the genitive have not been formally introduced by Wheelock, but I think it's helpful to mention them to make sure you understand these differences. So let's look at an example or two to understand those differences. For possession, you could say, mei amici veniunt, my friends are coming, or tuum amorem video, I see your love. Here we're talking about my friends or your love. They're possessing things. If we look at the other examples where we see our genitive pronouns, we can see how they're being used a little bit differently. Pauci nostrum amicorum veniunt, few of us friends are coming. So here nostrum is the whole out of which the pauci are taken, and amicorum is in apposition to nostrum, us friends. We are that group of friends, and the pauci are a part of us, and that pauci, the few of the us, are the ones who are coming. Or we could use the pronoun for the objective genitive. So it's the object of some sort of noun that might have an object if it's turned into a verb. For example, love, that you love something. There's a love of an animal, love of a topic, love of an idea, love of a person. So in this example, tuum amorum mei video, I see your love of me. We know what the object of the love is, me, not any. It's not that I am possessing the love, because we have that possessive adjective tuum to tell us that it's your love for me that I am seeing here. That in practice, you won't have to deal with choosing which of these to use, the possessive adjective or the genitive pronoun, unless you're writing English to Latin. However, it is useful to understand these differences. let's move on to another interesting use with first and second person pronouns, and that's with the preposition cum. Normally, you say cum amico or cum popolo, with the friend or with the people, and the preposition comes first. However, with these four pronouns, the preposition is added on to the end of the pronoun, just like with ne or que, like we've already seen. So it becomes mecum for with me, tecum with you, nobiscum with us, wobiscum for with y'all. All right, let's look at our third person pronouns. He, she, it. Is, ea, id. This doesn't have a separate plural pronoun because it can be in the plural. And most of these forms follow your first and second declension forms, except for the genitive ius ending to that e stem and ei, ae for dative. So eus and ae are for all genders, and they are the ones that don't follow your first and second patterns that are the ones you're used to. Instead, you have to memorize those are a little bit different. However, if you remember your demonstrative adjectives, ille and iste, these are exactly the same patterns, that ius and that I ending after your stem base thing. So you already have this pattern that you can memorize or adapt to use is, ea, id more effectively. Similarly to ille, illa, illud, and iste, ista, istud, is, ea, id can be used as a demonstrative adjective. So let's understand what that means for a second. As we've been talking about so far in this video, is, ea, id is a pronoun meaning he, she, or it, like in our very left column here. When the word is all alone, it's just a pronoun. It can replace some other noun, like a pronoun does, and that noun that the pronoun replaces is the antecedent. And for our purposes, an antecedent's going to have the same gender and number, but a different case than its antecedent, or it might have a different case than its antecedent. It just depends on how the pronoun's being used in its own clause. So to return to how is, ea, id's a demonstrative adjective, let's look at our middle column. A regular demonstrative could be hic filius, this son, illa filia, that daughter, or hoc donum, this gift. Is could replace hic filius as the antecedent, ea could replace illa filia, that daughter, id could replace hoc donum, this gift. However, you could also use is, ea, id as the demonstrative adjective. And in this case, is and ea and id can mean this, or it could mean that. So is filius means this son or that son. Ea filia could mean that daughter or this daughter. Id donum could mean this gift or that gift. It's a weaker version of the demonstrative adjective, so that's why it could mean either this or that. And you have to choose the meaning based on the context of your sentence. Finally, the last thing to introduce in this chapter is another demonstrative adjective, idem, eadem, idem, meaning the same. And the reason this is in this chapter is that the demonstrative idem, eadem, idem uses the exact same forms as is, ea, id, but with dem added on to mean the same. The only time it's different is when it's in the accusative singular and would end with an M, and then you add a dem, say undem, is hard to pronounce, so it's eundem, and eondem and idem, just like its nominative singular form, and the genitive plural. Again, that M is hard to pronounce before the dem, so eorundem and earundem. So how does this work in sentences? Well, it can be a pronoun, idem videmus, we see the same thing, or it can be an adjective, eundem virum videmus, we see the same man. It works in either option. So to help us understand that, let's check your understanding. So just identify the case of some pronouns and then try translating some sentences to make sure you understand how we use them in sentences. Once you have this translated and understood, call me over and I will check your answers so that we can see how well you are understanding personal pronouns. Thanks for watching this video.